John Hattie has used as his mantra from the very, very beginning, the 2009 publication of Visible Learning. It's when we see learning through the eyes of our students. In other words, making their learning visible so that we can see it from their perspective, not just ours. And then students start to see themselves as their own teachers. Now, there's a catch to this because we don't want to give the impression that students seeing themselves as their own teacher replaces the teacher in that classroom. So another way to think about this is that students drive their own learning. And Nancy and Doug and John have an outstanding playbook that talks about how to help students drive their own learning. And so they know what to do when they don't know what to do, and they're no longer in our classrooms. And so how does that show up? So visible learning is this idea that we want to take learning and teaching and make it visible, so visible that we can see our impact, we can work together alongside students and leverage the feedback from that information to decide where to go next. And so to geek it up a little bit, this started as a hobby. For those that don't know the whole visible learning story, I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but please understand that this is rooted in a body of research that comes from a large body of evidence about learning in multiple contexts, multiple settings. Let's try the emotion reactions on your Zoom. How many of you, by a show of hands, a smiley face, a heart somehow, you've seen a study that tells you a certain strategy, intervention, or approach is okay, but then by the end of the week, you see another study that says, actually, don't do that? The thumbs up. Yep. Couple of hearts. Thank you to the optimists. And so that creates a bit of a challenge. So how do you make sense of all of the evidence that's out there about teaching and learning? How do you make sense of all of this? And that's really what led to John Hattie's hobby, which now brings us to the conversation today. What do we do with this? How do we make this happen? And as you know, a meta-analysis is our go-to. The world of meta-analysis doesn't necessarily look at a single study. It looks at a collection of studies to get the overall. Nancy, I can't not respond to that comment. Yeah, it's one thing to have a hobby like reading, watching sports, traveling, or seeing Broadway shows. When your hobby is calculating effect sizes, I don't know what to really do with that. But nonetheless, we get to benefit from those sorts of hobbies. And so meta-analyses give us effect sizes. And just as a real quick analogy for thinking about this, effect sizes are the potential. They're the potential that a particular influence impacts student learning. But here's the catch. Now, lean in on this one because this is huge, right? Because effect sizes aren't guarantees, they're potentials. And that potential needs to get converted into true impact by us and how we set up the environment and the culture in our classroom. And so when it comes to getting started with visible learning, we've kind of just let the cat out of the bag, haven't we, Nancy? It is actually the culture, climate, and the environment in which that potential is planted.